Come here, man. Let me hug you.
I'll take a hug. I'll take a hug anytime, man.
Well, that's good. See, that's what I like about you. There was a time when you didn't take hugs, right? I don't know. I'm assuming. A hug to me is foreign.
Yeah,
My mother, my mother didn't. I wasn't raised with my mother hugging me. Maybe when I was like a little kid, but like I don't remember hugs from my mother. Like that didn't happen.
yeah.
So, so when,
That there was a
yeah,
time for me, the majority of my life, a hug didn't mean anything to me. Like, I know now that a hug can be consoling. You can actually exchange, like, transfer like some energy to another person. But I think up until my brother passed away, a hug to me didn't have any effect. Not even not even for romantic partners.
but wait a second. Are you talking about? Let's go back. A hug didn't mean into anything to you from like since you were young until like till you got
Since I
older.
was young, yeah. Yeah.
But
Since I was a full blown adult in my 30s.
but how
It
is
just
that?
didn't have an effect.
So you look. What did you look at a hug as? Just a friendly gesture, like hey, how you doing today?
Yeah. Yeah. Like like you could be on a sport team and somebody does something good, you pat them in the back.
Yeah,
Uh like like to me it was just like that. It was just like, "Oh, okay. All right. That's
yeah.
it. Okay."
Do,
It was
do,
never it was never like the way you mentioned earlier, or I think in the more meaningful context,
yeah.
it never really made me feel better or insecure or weird. It was just like, oh, okay, we're touching. All right, cool. That's over. Moving on.
But when you say that's
It just
over,
didn't have.
when you say that's over, is this something that you wanted to for it to be over quickly?
No, I was not. I've never been afraid of affection or anything like that.
Okay.
I just didn't feel nothing by it.
Because
Yeah.
because you know, I don't know if that's common, and I'm not an expert, but when people get hugs when you're young, I think hugs are important. I think hugs like I think a kid feels a hug, right? Is that
Yeah.
would you say that? Would you think that with your situation of how you felt is average, or is that you know
No, no, I know. Looking back at it, I could tell you it was definitely not normal. Um, I didn't know what to make out of a hug. I didn't trust adults. I
okay?
didn't, so to me, it didn't mean it's almost like waiting to see what do you mean by what you're going to say, but what you're trying to say, but waiting, 10 years, like it just never, to me, it just never, it didn't feel weird or uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I just, I
didn't
just
put it.
never understood. Yeah, I just never understood what people, were trying to do. It was kind of like, okay, I get it. I think, you know what I mean? It was barely intellectual, barely mental. You know what I mean?
So it's fair to say that you never gave out hugs. Then, if it wasn't something that
Right.
you
That's
were the
very, yeah.
you were the receiver of the hugs.
Yeah, I think more often. I I never thought. And matter of fact, it was this is a good thing you're bringing up because
Yeah,
it wasn't until my brother passed away that actually was the recipient for the first time of like when people pass away and people just come and sit with you.
yeah.
Like that was a foreign concept to me. I never ever allowed anyone to be there for me in that way. But for the first time in my life, I'm like, what a difference it makes for people just sit with you and say nothing and do nothing, like holding space. I've
Right.
never seen that in my life, never experienced that. But my brother's in-laws came and they asked me, they said, look, people care about you and people want the opportunity to care about you. Um, so you should think about that. And I respect this guy. This is my brother's father-in-law. He's a cool dude, and I respect him. And so I said, okay, just out of respect. But when I went through that experience, number one, I didn't realize how hard it was going to hit me. That one of my so I'm a parentified child, right? So it's like one of my kids died.
Okay. Hold.
For me, that's
I got a question for you.
mhm,
Um, when did your brother die?
about 7, 8 years ago.
How many brothers did you have?
This is we're four from my mother's side, and this is my third born brother. He was 26 at the time.
The third, you,
He'd
which
be
one?
37. He'd be 37 now, so that would be about yeah, 10 years ago. No, is it 10 years? Yeah, it's been a while. It might have been 2014, so just about 8 years. Yeah,
About 8 years. He was the one
yeah.
after you. Which one are
Now
you?
that I'm the oldest. There's my second born brother who we have the same, set of parents.
Right.
Then my third born brother, he's a 26-year-old, and he was 26 at the time. And then I
Right.
have an even younger brother. So yeah, my third born brother, he passed away.
Okay, so let go back to what your father-in-law was telling you that you didn't understand at the time. What was it that he said? Because I got
Yeah,
thrown off the brother.
I think people call it. Yeah, I think people call it like holding vigil or something like that, or it's like holding vigil, right? It's like you know, people have the candlesticks and they're out in the night looking for somebody who's missing, or holding space for somebody who's going through something or whatever. That was my first and only experience so far with something like that, but it had an effect on me. I didn't realize that people could support you without even doing anything, and I felt extremely supported because I didn't really know how. I mean, and I cried a lot, at his funeral, man, because a lot of things went through my mind. It wasn't just losing my brother. It was, how did I fail my brother, and all the strict parenting I did, on him and things like that. A lot of things, you don't really realize. Uh, as unfair as it is to me, because I'm not his parent, I shouldn't have been given that role. It was still, it was our experience. I couldn't, like, there's nothing I could do to change how I felt about losing him. And so that was hard. That was heavy for me. So, that was, I think, the first time I ever felt hugged in my life.
Oh, that's a good holding space. I just learned that word today. Holding space.
Yeah.
That's it doesn't have to be physical, um, but support
Yeah.
comes in all different ways. That's good. And you were saying that at other funerals that you've been to before, there wasn't that before. You said that was the first.
Same with the hugs, man. I just never, I mean, I could feel for other people. I know that they've lost loved ones. I've been to relatives' funerals, but I can't tell you
Oh,
nothing. Um, Nothing really hit me, like when my brother passed away.
okay, got you. So
Yeah,
that was a different type of funeral than the other ones you went to.
yeah, yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. You know the just a situation with me. I've only been to one funeral in my life, and this was my mother's. Like I've never before my mother died, I've never been to a funeral. And people when they hear that, they're like, "You've never been to a funeral before?" I was like, "Nah." I actually really never knew anyone that was close to me died. Like if someone died, they might have been in another country or something like that, or
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean. But like I haven't had anyone like close to me die. Like my mother was the first
Yeah,
one. That was, you know, most people their first funeral is not their mother's. You know what I'm saying? So I could understand.
yeah. It's usually a friend. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's a heavy way to have, that first experience. It's a lot that goes on in your mind
so why
to
why
try to
do you
comprehend.
why do you think that um I guess because it was somebody that was closer to your brother that maybe that's why you felt the support at that time because the support was probably there at those other funerals, but you felt more supportive because you it was more pain probably. Would that
You
make sense?
know, it does. I think I understand what you're saying. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I think that in the case of these guys, I think they just really cared. They're good people, like outside of me knowing them, they're just good people. They're human people. They're not perfect. They're not to be idolized. Uh, but I think when you have a healthy respect for someone and they bring their love to your home and they just sit there and they say, it doesn't matter. We don't need to talk. Nothing needs to happen. but we're here. That holds a lot of weight, and that's also has been a huge influence for me as a father and as a relationship partner. People overestimate and underestimate the weight of their presence in a relationship. Um, and I
Oh,
think that was a huge experience for me, and I'll never forget it because it taught me a valuable lesson that day. Like you matter more than you think, and in more specific ways than you think. We spend so much time trying to follow, these go through these rigmaroles of like, let me show you that I love you or prove to you that I can be trusted, and some of it is just how you carry yourself and just being present. So they did that for me. I think up until that moment, I have to say I might have been a little cynical about the world still. I might have been a little like nobody really cares. My brother's gonna die, that everybody's gonna forget,
yeah,
but they cared. And
yeah,
they cared. And it was like you could not argue with that. It was true. It was in your face. And so
yeah.
that they changed my life. And I don't even think we've never talked about it. I don't think they've ever known this.
No, that's good. I mean, that's the things I think are important to share, those feelings and what you went through and how that helped you. Because when you tell the source of those people, it makes them feel fantastic. You know what I mean? And they're not even trying to do that. Whenever you tell me something I did for you many years ago, I'm happy because I'm like, oh, I was like you, learning the world. you know, we live our lives and we just try to do the best thing that we think is the best thing to do and help people and just be positive. But like you were talking about your brother and your younger brother, and you were saying that you. I'm just gonna use the word regret, but not that you regret, but you were put in a role of raising him, and you did whatever you did and whatever was weighing on your mind. It's like we're all kids when that's happening. Like when something happens back in the day and you're just 2 or 3 years older than somebody or 4 years older, you're really still a kid. So you don't know the world, you don't know how to be. Only thing you know is what's around you, and that's what you believe is the right thing until I think when most people get older and they look back at what they believed or what they did or how they felt, they understand why they were that way. And they understand that that wasn't the right way to be or the right thing to do or whatever it is, right? Would you agree, or how do you feel about that? I don't know if I'm
I
making sense.
do agree. I do agree. I think though, and for anybody who will listen to this conversation months or years from now, anybody who doesn't know me personally will miss the context of this. Well, I think the only thing I will add to what you're saying is that we're not all just kids, right? I had a conversation with my son, so he can understand the very same principle. I was suicidal. I wanted to die. I wanted my suffering to end until I was about 25 years old. He was 2 at the time. And if I don't have my son in my life, right? So how am I supposed to regret having a child at 23, which is, not really the most ideal time for an inner city kid to have a child, right? Because you're not ready, you're not financially ready, you're not ready in so many ways uh, to have a child. But for me, I could say it saved my life, but that would just be being dramatic. What I can tell you is that it for me it was there was no logic in the thinking of suicide. There was no logic. There was no if this then that. If this gets a little worse, if this doesn't happen by tomorrow, there was no logic. I just wanted the suffering to end. I was in an extreme amount of pain. But I thought after I took like a brief nap, thankfully,
Yeah.
because I think that gave me some of my mental resources back. I said to myself, if my son is suffering today because these circumstances are not conducive to how I would like to raise him, can you imagine what it would be like without having me in his life? Right? So that stopped me. That was the only thing. So that's the impact. And I'll tell you the same with our friendship.
You wait, real.
Uh,
That's what's kind of
mhm.
stopped you from actually going through with it.
Yeah, 1000%.
Yeah,
There was no steps to take. That was it. I was at the end.
yeah.
It was just a matter of how, when, where, what instrument was I going to use.
Was is there?
And I tell my son this because sometimes we get caught up in the physical, superficial world, and we think everything is ego and like if I don't have my way. But for some people, it makes a deeper difference than that. For some people, I don't know what to make of that, right? Like, was my son sent so that I won't so that he could save my life? Or did my son know? I mean, I don't know. Does it have a spiritual meaning? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that was the experience. That was real. That happened, and I remember everything about that day. Um,
How old were you?
I was 25.
25. Okay, back
I
then.
was 25, yeah, years old. My son was only 2. He was barely 2. So I was like 25. Maybe I just turned 26. I was between those 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, but the same goes for our friendship, right? You know, uh, there was so much that went on in my life, in my youth, and there was so much that was going on in my mind, as a young adult. If I didn't have something to look forward to, if I didn't have something to believe in, I'm not sure what the alternative would be. So you were one of those people. You were one of those people that, regardless of how you were really doing, you always believed in something, and so that's you always believed in something bigger and something better. Whether or not you carried it out, I never even really stopped to pay attention to the details, but I knew you were always about something. And I don't know if it's our athletic experiences or the military, but I believed in it. I believed in it as well. So to me, to have somebody in my life who could back up the talk that we were talking, that was instrumental also. So, like, this is what I'm saying. Your presence matters in a way that most people underestimate. For some people, you might be a piece of crap loser, and to other people, you're the thing that's going to save their lives tonight. You're the thing that's going to give them a reason to keep going on that path. And everybody wants to sensationalize that because everybody's getting their information on the social media now. But that for me was my life experience. That's actually how I lived.
Wow, that's a big that's the stuff that we can't really understand till we get to this age. You know, we're going through it.
Absolutely.
You were doing what you're doing, but you weren't really thinking. You weren't thinking like this is what I'm doing. It was just
Right.
happening, and you were just following
Yeah.
what you needed to.
Yeah.
And that's powerful, man. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one thing about you that like I'm clearly understanding that you're very good at explaining something for people that may not understand that side of things, you know? And that's probably me. Like that's I think me and you we have, you know, you you grew up in the Bronx, New York, you know what I'm saying? I grew up in Laval, Canada, you know, my upbringing is different than yours, but you know, when you talk about these things, because that's kind of like, you know, on this Marine Corps birthday, I don't know if I told you, but there's probably like four Marines. There's more, but I mean four that I know that committed suicide from Buford, and it's like different times, you know, early 2000s, just a few years ago, and it just different times of people, and it's like when you talk about you just want the suffering to end, like that's the part that I don't that people don't understand or don't know, that don't experience that. You know, in my mind, there's always something better. You know what I'm saying? But when you're in that state and you don't see nothing better, and this is the pain or whatever is happening, it's like it's kind of scary because that's not the truth, but your mind believes that this is the truth. You know what I'm saying? So it's scary. It's kind of like someone just trying to, they're doing drugs. I'm not comparing it, but I'm just saying this as an example. They do drugs, so now they think they can fly off the roof and fly. And it's the mental, it's the brain, it's something messing with the
Yeah,
brain.
the mind is a scary place, man. The mind is a very scary place. It's very powerful in there. And I have in the last 4 or 5 years taken a strong interest into addiction and some behavioral sciences because it is linked. I don't think you're bringing that up by accident. It is linked. And besides the strength, the power of that belief system, you also have to understand that love is extremely healing. Love is, uh, love is the most potent healing agent there is. But also in its very nature, the absence of that love is also very hurtful. It's very painful, and people think love is pain, but it's not love. It's not love is not painful at all. It's just the absence of it. And I always say, because I've also had some time to study a lot on abuse and some of the things that lead to self abuse and things like that. Uh, Deprivation is a much stronger um, abusive experience than it is physical abuse, mental, or even
What's
sexual abuse.
what's deprivation again?
Deprivation. Well, when you're being deprived of love or any of your core needs. In fact, if you look at war tactics for how they interrogate or they break, prisoners, it's the same thing. A lot of it is deprivation, sensory deprivation, or food, daylight, which is what they do in jails and things like that. It's very powerful. It's very powerful to the mind. So, yeah, I think I don't know, um, those fallen soldiers, but the pain is not just things that are like, oh, my girlfriend broke up with me, or I lost money, or my parents, I can't tell my parents that I made a mistake. Um, it is a deep level of deprivation that goes on with some of these people, and it's so deep that you just don't see a way out. And so that's often why a lot of that terminology is expressed that way. So I think to connect the two dots, um, more than ever, I think, especially if you come across somebody like this, um, to be able to hold space for someone for an extended period of time because they're deep. They're deep into wherever they are, into their darkness or their experience. Um, Without rushing the process, without trying to control the process. But if there's love in that person and there's love in that situation, that person knows you as somebody who has been a source of love. Man, you have no idea how you can save somebody's life like that.
With love.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what did it for me with those in-laws, with my brothers in-laws. Is a lot of families promote love, like, our family's all about love, our family's all about dinners and, Sunday cooking and all this stuff. But a lot of it is you could sense that it's like, it's for show. But they are in all their wackiness. Like you can even see some of the dysfunction. Like they're just raw and real people. So it's easy to believe that whatever they feel for you, they feel for you. And I think that was a big
Wait,
thing. And the same with you.
wait, you said it's
The
hard.
same with you. I never say again.
Oh no, I was saying you were saying it's hard to believe. Well, you said a statement that you said it was hard to believe that they feel that way. Is that what you said?
It was easy to believe
Oh, it's easy.
that however they said they felt, they actually felt. It was easy to believe in the love they had for me as an extended family member because they didn't owe me anything, right? They're
Yeah.
just my brother's in-laws. They should be wanting to strangle him for whatever his knuckleheaded things have ever been. But they didn't do that. They came way over, the other side and they decided to do this for me. You know, they recognized the moment, and they did something for me that no one in my maternal family did. You know, they recognized that moment, and so it was a huge thing. And
Do you,
I'll say this. Go ahead.
do you think they you said that they did something that your maternal family didn't do. Do you think it's because your maternal family didn't know to do this, that this is something that would be good for you?
Yeah,
Because
1,000%.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, no, I don't think they did it for anybody involved in the funeral, in the loss.
right.
They just don't have it. That's not a feature in their software. They just don't have it to do it. They're not holding it back.
Right.
They're not they're not, negotiating it like, oh well, if you didn't screw me over last Thanksgiving, I would have been there for you today. You know, like there's none of that. It just doesn't exist
Sure.
with them. You know, they don't. You know, that's clear as day
Yeah.
to me. So yeah, and the other example I gave was our friendship. It's been the same for you. No matter how many times we fought or argued about things, uh, your friendship to me always felt unconditional. Like I knew you were just being a friend to me. I didn't never felt I was giving you a good reason to be a friend of me. You know, like whatever you liked about me, you liked about me. I don't know what that was. I was didn't even believe it for a long time. But the one thing I knew, even if I was wrong about it, it's just what I always believed. Uh, you were always willing to be a friend to me. I don't feel like I could ever not call you or even knock on your door and not receive your friendship. And I didn't always feel okay to do stuff like that, to like call you up on it. But I always felt I could. So to me, if there isn't a genuine, authentic love behind that connection, that relationship, um, yeah, that's going to be hard, to have presence or to get through to someone. So as a father, this is what I focus on the most is making sure that my children hear and feel my love now before later on I need to reach them somehow because you can't recreate that overnight. That's not going to happen. So that to me is the most important thing with no end goals, just letting them know like this is who I am, this is how I feel. Uh, yeah, so that there's substance for them later on in case they need their dad. You know what I mean? So yeah.
This is my good friend, Marine, New Yorker, basketball legend, friend. And we're going to sign out with Alex Cohen. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll be back again. I am Rodism Podcast.